Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our annual Faculty and Staff Recognition Celebration. My name is Jenny Porter. I'm the Assistant Dean for the Enrolled Student Experience here in the School of Public Health, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm also your MC for today's event. It's so fun to see everybody, and it's been fun to walk around and say hi to folks that we haven't seen in person in a little while. More than 200 people have registered for this event, and I want to thank everyone today for joining us and making your way to campus and being here today. So during today's event, you will hear about the state of the school. We're going to have some fun with SPH trivia and celebrate our faculty and staff accomplishments over the past year. But before we begin, I want to first acknowledge that the School of Public Health at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities is situated in the ancestral land of the Dakota people. Minnesota comes from the Dakota name for this region, Minnesota Makoche, the land where the waters reflect the skies. We acknowledge the ongoing debt that is owed to the Dakota people. We strive to create healthy dialogue, relationships, and practices that address this injustice, as well as others related to Indigenous people of this state. In just a moment, I'll be introducing Interim Dean Beebe, but first I want to take care of a few housekeeping items, just so they're clear. We have gender-neutral bathrooms that are located in the hallway, kind of behind us down the hall. There are handicap-accessible bathrooms located over by the elevators in the back there. There's also lactation spaces upstairs on the second floor. If you need help finding any of these locations, please try to find someone in one of the new SPH shirts that are wandering around. So now I'm going to introduce Tim Beebe, who really doesn't need an introduction, but he's going to be giving our State of the School address. Tim has served in leadership roles at the school since 2016. He became our interim dean on February 1st, 2022. And in this role, Tim provides collaborative leadership to maintain and advance SPH as a premier leader in public health and as the school prepares for a new dean. Please join me in welcoming Interim Dean Beebe to the stage.
Thanks, Jenny. I'll move this out of the way. What a great and fun occasion to see everybody here on this June 1st. That feels like August 1st. Again, you're probably wise to move away from the sun. This is a celebration of our successes and our strengths. And it's one of the greatest honors of my life is being able to serve as interim dean this last year. And from this perch, you see the whole of the school and the strengths that we have. And we're going to celebrate some of those today. And I'm glad that you were able to make it. So I wanted to thank Jenny for the kind introduction. And I want to thank Jenny, Sarah Harris, and so many others that did such a great job pulling this event together. It's a wonderful event. So let's give them a round of applause. So I'm going to talk today about our achievements. This is my best side. I don't have a best side. We'll talk about achievements, the current state of the school, hence the name, and the vision for the coming months that we can look forward to while I'm interim dean. And then I'll introduce the division heads to talk about their divisions, their successes, and what their plans are for the coming year. And so it's an exciting day to really kind of step back, enjoy each other, and enjoy our successes. So I want to start off by welcoming the new faculty. We welcomed 11 new faculty to the school over this past calendar year. You can see their faces up there, but I'm also wondering if you'd be able to stand up and wave if you're here. So welcome to the school, and we're so lucky to have you. It's the best decision you will have made. We also welcome 76 staff to our ranks. Clearly we can't fit every picture or photo on this slide, but we have incredible strengths in student services, research, and operations. So if you're among the 76, could you stand up so we can recognize you? So 3 new people have joined the leadership team. Next slide. And there they are. Professor Jean Abraham moved from interim head of the Division of Health Policy Management, a vast improvement from her predecessor. I want to introduce interim head of the Division of Epi and Community Health, Lisa Harnack. So welcome to her. Again, we'll miss Diane. It's not official till July, but nonetheless, she is here to present on behalf of that division. And Tai Wen, who joined us just a few weeks ago as our Director of Human Resources. We were able to nab him from MnSCU. And so we're very lucky to have all 3 there play critical roles in the leadership and management of their areas. And again, just another example of how talented we are, how able we are to attract the top talent to this school. So let's welcome them. So this year, our faculty members accepted the distinguished honor of being promoted or receiving tenure in this university. I won't mention them, but again, we had that ceremony a few weeks ago. It was the same week as commencement. Commencement was on Monday, and the celebration of the promotions and tenure was on Thursday. We celebrated the transition of students to their next version of themselves in their lives, and then our colleagues as they enter their next phase of their career. So it's my favorite week, right after Shark Week. It's my favorite week of the year. So congratulations to all the faculty who were promoted and tenured. So let's give them a round of applause. So we are committed, this university, to rewarding and acknowledging the incredible contributions of our incredible faculty. We have a number of faculty, 8 of them, who receive some of the highest honors at the university, befitting their contributions in the research and the academic spaces. So they've had a positive impact on the school, the community, the future of our state, the world, and society. So congratulations to each of you for these well-deserved honors. So a number of our faculty and staff have made the decision to move on to their next phase of their lives, retirement. Their dedication to the school is commendable, and we will miss seeing them on Zoom and on campus. We wish them well in whatever future holds for them. So I know that Ira's here. I don't know if any of the other people on this slide are here. I mean, they're retired, so anybody want to stand up and say hello? Harry? So this past year, we lost one dear member of our school community. Mary Austin passed away unexpectedly on April 3rd. For more than 33 years, Mary was an integral part of the Division of Epidemiology and Community Health, where she managed client data in the Nutrition Coordinating Center. She also contributed to the larger university community through decades of union service. Mary is deeply missed. All right, so moving to the next phase. So our school has accomplished so much in the last 12 months. For example, we launched Minnesota Prepared, a collaboration with the Minnesota Department of Health and local public health agencies to build our state's public health emergency response capacity. We were selected by the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA, and the CDC to lead the consortium of workforce research in public health. And those are just a couple of examples. Our faculty and staff were mentioned in the media more than 11,000 times in this past year, helping raise our school's profile and our reputation. That'll be a through line in my comments around reputation. And we defined 6 priority initiatives. I talked about them last November that we're pursuing to position the school better for the next dean. I'll share an update on 3 of those priorities as well. Underlying all these efforts and guiding our school is our strategic plan for anti-racism, which launched summer 2021. It's our touchstone and guides all that we do and all that we are and the investments we make. So as I said before, on May 15th, we graduated more than 350 students. from 23 different countries and 36 different states. So they are moving on to their next phase of life, and they will go on to impact how public health is practiced locally, within the state, within the country, and globally. As are professors, mentors, coordinators, and advisors, and collaborators, their achievements are also your achievements. You can take pride in the success that they have achieved and what they will achieve moving forward. So through your guidance and their participation, they've now woven into the fabric of the school and will become active alumni, affiliate faculty, and ambassadors for our school. So we have the opportunity as faculty and staff to influence not only how the work of the public health is accomplished in our state, but throughout the world. You know, on any given day, we have over 1,000 students in this school with who we serve, guide, and educate. It is an honor to teach and guide them. I actually feel like this period of interim deanship is a period of deprivation. I still advise, but I'm not in the classroom. I'm really looking forward to spending time in the classroom. It's just, it's one of the reasons I came here from Mayo Clinic and one of the highlights of my life. All right, so now the fun stuff. Well, that was fun. This is equally fun. In the coming slides, I want to talk to you about enrollment. I want to talk to you about research, and I want to talk about finances. So first, enrollment. So I'm going to use this laser pointer, so apologies to any cats in the audience. So you can see here, in 2021, we saw a bump in enrollment. The top line is applications, and the bottom line are actual matriculations. And we saw a big bump, they call it the Fauci effect. And we knew that this wouldn't last, and we were right. It's come down a bit. And, but one thing to be mindful of here is our applications are still really high, historically, but our matriculations have declined. So this is an opportunity and a challenge for us that I'll talk a little bit about here soon. This is a national trend. Our school is less impacted by this than other schools, but nonetheless, it is going to be a challenge for us. So there are several factors involved in this. Next slide. So one is there's huge competition. There seems to be a new program or school of public health joining our ranks almost every day. You can see the maroon bars. Can everybody, do I have to kind of toggle back and forth, or can I just do the laser on this one? You can see that the number of accredited programs has increased over time, and in the yellow line, it's the number of applications are declining. So it is something that we're seeing across the country. So in essence, supply is outstripping demand. So in addition, our applications from the University of Minnesota undergrads, who have opted to go into public health has declined. The number who have actually come here versus other schools of public health. There's a 50% decrease in applications from University of Minnesota students to our graduate programs. So there's work to do there. So we're tracking these trends closely and are taking steps to improve our enrollment strategy in this highly competitive environment. So this summer, we'll be convening a committee to monitor these data and trends and make adjustments throughout the year. So please accept the invitation to participate on this important committee if asked, because it does take a school-wide approach. So the number one reason why students decline enrollment in our school is the funding package. And it's a really interesting observation that was pointed out to me. A number of the students that we lose go to schools of public health that are actually more expensive, much more expensive than we are. But their funding package is much larger than ours at a gross level. Not gross like you, gross level. But when you net it out, they're actually still paying more than us. So somehow we have to message this better. Again, when you have the applications high and the matriculations low, there's work that gives us an opportunity to work in this space and messaging and the like. Same with like the scholarships. We need to systematize the the offering of funding. Our funding offers tend to come later than our competitors, so other competitors, the students going there know what their funding package is sooner than ours, and so we need to systematize that and get in front of that so that our funding packages are competitive and they're aware of that in crucial decision-making processes. So we'll be implementing a new customer management tool called Salesforce to develop consistency and efficiency in the ways we support and communicate with our students, so that if someone applies to, say, the MHA program, but they may be interested in PHAP or something, that there's this handoff within rather than we're lost entirely they go to like Michigan, God forbid. So we'll be launching a new brand campaign mid-August to attract top students to our school with targeted advertising. I'll talk a bit more about our brand strategy in a bit. So we'll support our faculty. Again, it's really important. Students are really swayed by faculty outreach. When they get to talk to a faculty member or our world-famous faculty, that makes a difference in the decision-making. And so we want to activate more formally, and I want to ask you all to kind of prepare yourselves as faculty to reach out to students once they're applied and are considering it, because that does make a big difference. We really haven't done that in a systematic way in the past. So over the summer, our student services and our communications teams will be reaching out to the divisions to work on a recruitment strategy, utilizing all these things that I've discussed heretofore. All right, turning to research. Okay, so, so we continue to live up to our reputation as a research powerhouse. We have at the highest levels of extramural funded research in our history. We are number 3 in the university in terms of funding, and we're number 1 in funding per capita. So it's about $1.15 million per faculty member in funding, which is the highest at the university. Something I tell VPR Priya all the time. So we're also leaning into creative ways for funding, diversifying our portfolio, and with some success. And interestingly, Marizan pointed this out to me the other day, so I put it in my comments. We're submitting fewer applications, but we're being awarded larger grants. So we're still historically high at about $115 million in research funds, which is quite high. So we're moving more toward larger grants, and I know that was Marizan's vision, was to look at larger grants, P grants and U grants and the like. So none of this would happen without all the strong and focused efforts of faculty and staff. So I applaud all the work that you do. So let's give ourselves a round of applause on that. All right, so now on to finances. And let me just orient you to this a little bit with the lightsaber here. So, we have fiscal year. On the stack bars, we have other, which I'm not exactly sure what that is. We have, man, I need a new prescription, man. I feel like there should be elevator music playing while I'm doing this. So the orange is philanthropic gifts. The yellow or goldenrod are state and the U of M allocation. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a second. The maroon is tuition and fees. And then the gray is our grants and contracts. And you can see that it's incredibly high in 2021. A total of $312 million. And that was largely driven by an incredible amount of COVID money coming in, largely to the Coordinating Center for Biometric Research, getting almost $267 million to fund COVID-related research. Since then, things have leveled out somewhat. But it's important to note, and I don't have some of this information on there, but we're still much higher than all the other years prior to 2021 in terms of extramural funding. And as I said, fewer grants but larger awards. So I have 2 exciting announcements to make here soon. that has an impact on that goldenrod stratum. But first, let's go to this next slide and graph. I just want to orient this. This is conveying similar information, but the years are a little bit further out. It's disaggregating our O&M or our university allocation to our base and the state special. So the orange line is tuition, and you can see a bit of a downward canting kind of projected to 2024, a bit of a downward canting in ICR or indirect cost recovery related to the grant submissions projected. But what I want to point out here, the first thing I want to let you know of is that, and you might have heard this, and that we have received a $2.5 million recurring state special from the legislature to fund Cannabis Research Center based on the taxation of legalized cannabis. So that's recurring. And you'll see at the bottom line that back in 2011 we had about $1 million, but it's been pretty flat at $300,000 for the last decade. And this will bring us up to $2.8 million that we'll have in state special directly from the legislature to support that work. So none of this would have happened without your engagement. I'm sure many of you remember the notes that we sent out asking you to contact your legislators and the like. And I appreciate all the work that you did to do that. So what this says, I mean, the dollar amount is great, but it also says, that we're making headway with a key stakeholder. There's always been kind of a dissonance or a disconnect between what we are and how we're perceived. And clearly the legislature has a sense of what the School of Public Health brings to the table now. And that will actually improve because we're going to activate a legislative strategy with University Relations starting later this month. That is more formalized engagement with legislature moving forward. So again, thank you for all your work on that. A special shout out to Dean Emeritus John Finnegan, who is supposed to be retired, but he hit the pavement hard and pumped hands and kissed babies throughout the session to testify and state the case for why this is a public health issue and why the School of Public Health is ideally situated. And I want to point out that Jen Schultz, who is an alum of our school, a PhD in our Health Services Policy and Administration program, a faculty member at UMD, and a former state legislator who started this ball rolling a couple sessions ago when it looked like this legislation was going to pass, and it was kind of incredibly important in helping us navigate what I told my wife. I said I felt like Spock at a mosh pit. I mean, it's so nonlinear, that whole process, that we couldn't have done it without her as our guide. Feel free to use that one. My wife did not laugh that hard at it, so. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. I mean, the legislature clearly. So in addition, I'm proud to share that the university has increased its annual support of the school by more than $3 million a year, actually closer to $3.5 million. And you can see on the second to the bottom line, this is the internal allocation of funds that the university receives from the state. They kind of spread the money out based on, and haven't been on the receiving end of a lot of love along those lines. We've had like a 40% reduction in our internal base since 2009. But I'm happy to say that they have increased it so that it's at a historic high. Back in 2011, it was around $10 million. Now it's going to be close to $11.5 million is our allocation. So that's, both of those together is about $6 million each year in new money that the school has. And so another thing, I mean, the money's great. Again, money is great. But I think what it symbolizes, so we've clearly made headway with another key constituency, university leadership, right? So this decision was made by a consensus of the Budget 6, which include some of the top leaders at this university. Julie Tonneson, who's the VP of Budget and Budget Director, Myron Franz, who's the Senior VP for Finance and Operations, Rachel Croson, who's the Provost, Jacob Tolar, the Dean of the Medical School and Vice President for Clinical Affairs, Shashank Priya, who is the Vice President of Research, Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez, Vice President for Equity and Diversity. So that means that they all agreed that our school is worthy of this investment. I think it's welcome, a little late, and hopefully just the start. So again, this required engagement, and again, it's an easy product to sell. It's about time this sort of lacuna between what we are and how we're perceived is closed. And so thank you all for all you do to make this easy to articulate to the leadership. And this is a great example of formalized investment. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. So to sum up on the financial part of it, our funding sources are up, some are down. At the end of the day, our financial outlook is really, really good, and this comes at a really good time. You know, we are going to start our dean candidate interviews next week. For the next 2 weeks, we're bringing 4 really, really strong dean candidates. I was on the search committee, and oh yeah, Ruby, and I'm glad other people heard that too. It wasn't just an internal monologue. They are very strong candidates. I hope that you do take the time to meet with them. Yeah, I know it's a busy time of year. It's a hard time to take time to interview. But it's really important that you spend the time and take the opportunity to work with them, because now we have always had a strong school, but seeing this investment that's so proximal to the decision-making process is very critical to us. So. You know, we still have to look at efficiencies. We have to diversify our funding. We have to engage, as we do, legislators, donors, others. And so, I mean, it's not easy and doesn't come naturally, but it's something that's so critical to our success moving forward. All right, so let's look forward. Next slide. As you know, and just as I just mentioned, the provost is conducting a national search for the new dean. I just said this too, so I guess I got ahead of myself. 4 candidates are coming through. And just another reminder that interviewing is recruiting. So they're interviewing us just as much as we're interviewing them. So, you know, echo the strengths of this school that we were talking about today and that you know to be true. It's really important that they come away thinking that this is a job that is worthy of them, and we're worthy of them. All right, next slide. In November, I introduced 6 school-wide strategic initiatives. Well, we actually have 10, but I focused on 6. And today I'm going to focus on 3 that really we wanted to focus on to get to the new dean. They're in the research, education, and engagement spaces. I'm going to focus on 3: brand positioning, strategic plan for anti-racism, and the undergraduate program. All the other priorities in the progress reports can be seen in our intranet. We update that regularly. All right, so the brand. Okay, we're on that. So whether you realize this or not, we have a brand at this school. Anyone who comes in contact with us develops a notion, an opinion about our school based on the quality of their interactions. That notion is our brand, and it influences how people engage with us. And all brands compete for business, and it's really, as I said, it's very competitive right now. We compete for students, research funding, faculty, staff hires, philanthropy, and much more. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing the number of schools and programs increasing, so the competition is getting really tough. So I'm going off script. You know, I think for too long, we've been, let our good work speak for itself. Let's put it out there, let's share it. And we have great dissemination vehicles. But I think that we have to go on the offense, sharpen our elbows a little bit. Our brand strategy is really going to focus on getting at that next group of stakeholders, external contemporaries, and prospective students. And so particularly the ones that actually rate us on the survey that ranks us. So we're going to put billboards up in their neighborhood. We're going to say bad things about them. No, we're not. So we're going to be very aggressive. In the last year, we've been working with a marketing firm. Next slide. to create a brand strategy. It's a very interesting process with qualitative and quantitative, looking at influencers, looking at scraping websites to see what their skills are. And really, it's what we wanted to get a sense of what differentiates us. So what differentiates us is that we with our communication, our community connections, and our focus on health. So we have this sweet spot where we're big and robust and world-class, but we're small enough to focus those powers toward the student and the like. So we're known, based on our research, for our commitment to student achievement, health equity, and community engagement. And so this new campaign captures the essence of what we are. And the culmination of this new campaign, and you see it on the shirts that you got for free, you're welcome, on your tables, Healthier Happening Here. And we're gonna start in August, we're gonna really start pushing that actively out to the different markets. And just while I'm thinking about it, there's a whiteboard back there. If you could take a minute to put your thoughts down on like how you are personally or how the school ought to be living that sort of healthier happening here. Sure, that'd be great. So, so we have an active campaign planned, and I thank Sarah Bjorkman and her group for all the work that they've done on that. And we've discussed this many times in leadership, and it's going to be rolling out formally here soon. All right, so that's the brand strategy. And those little arrows, that's going to figure prominently in our branding, and as well on social media. It's going to be very active. It's really good. You're going to love it. You're going to want to go here. So when it comes to our culture, the next initiative is probably the most critical for our school in dismantling hundreds of years of oppression, injustice, and inequity. Our Strategic Plan for Anti-Racism, or SPAR, which we launched in July 2021, will guide our efforts over the next 3 years as we commit to putting justice and equity at the center of all that we do. Next slide. For the past 2 years, we've taken action and made progress on multiple aspects of that SPAR. You can see the dashboard on the intranet site. You know, we've made positive movement on climate. Lauren Jones had a community forum talking about how the climate was in 20 and how it was in 2022. And climate is really hard to change. And we saw a lot of positive progress there. There's a lot more work to do, but it's heartening to see that we've seen some positive progress along those lines. You know, we're becoming more racially and ethnically diverse. The number of faculty and staff who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color, and American Indians has increased by about 5% in the last year. Importantly, and again, this is so us, many other schools within the university and schools across the country are emulating our SPAR. They see it as kind of the stylized, ideal version of this, where it's not just some vapid declaration. It actually has teeth and resources allocated to it. So a lot of places are emulating our work. So this coming year, we'll be focused on a number of different things, but a lot of effort going into education, you know, updating our syllabi, creating instructor capacity, and systematizing our community engagement activities. So we'll have a celebration, year 2, coming this fall. You know, the lead stewards are responsible for the different areas, and we're working on updating the SPAR, but it really is up to all of us. Again, this isn't something that a portion of us are doing. This has to be all of us leaning into this and engaging in this and making positive, tangible, authentic action. All right, next slide. So the undergraduate major. The final initiative I want to focus on today is our BA in Public Health. Last December, the Board of Regents approved our request to establish an undergraduate public health major, something that's been in the works for 20 plus years, right, John? This is a huge milestone. We've been for close to 80 years a graduate school. But the markets have shown that undergraduate programs are outstripping MPHs in terms of market demand. So we'll welcome our first ever undergraduate cohort later this fall. So it's 15 students, which is a nice place to start as we're kind of getting our sea legs on that, and they're incredibly strong. 40% of this cohort are Black, Indigenous, students of color, and American Indian students. 2 of these students are currently working in public health. This spring we hired Tony Oak. I just met him this morning. Can you stand up, Tony, and wave? He's going to be our undergraduate student advisor who oversees all aspects of the student experience. Big job. But I told him, I said, you are so lucky because now you're going to be part of building this plane as you're flying it. This is a huge, it's going to be such a big program because I think there's a lot, and Ruby can speak to this, a lot of interest from the community colleges and others around the country in this. And so I think it's going to be huge. We want to kind of titrate up. But many thanks to Ruby, Stephanie, Betsy, and for all their work on getting this up and running. And it's just going to be so great to have students. And we're going to have a little hootenanny in September of welcoming the new cohort. And so please join that and welcome them and let them know that they're our special first cohort. All right, next slide. So what are we looking at in the year ahead? So most of we can't see, but we do know two things. One, President Gable has accepted a different position elsewhere, and a new interim president has been named. And there's nothing cooler on the planet than interim anything. Lucky guy. So he'll serve in the role while the regents frame and form the process for searching for the next, the 18th president of this school. In addition, as I've said, we'll be welcoming the 8th dean of this school of public health. The new dean will be so lucky. Again, I'm so privileged to be in this role, and I think the quality of applicants that we have are reflective of the quality of this school. They'll take over a very strong school, one of the strongest schools of public health in the world. And next year will be our 80th anniversary. It seems like we just had our 75th. And so it's a really cool time, and we'll have all sorts of shindigs, clam bakes, and all that sort of things. So I encourage you once again to participate in the process of selection. It's so critical. And I think one of the worst things that we can do is have a venue set up for meeting with the candidates and 3 people show up. I know it's not easy. For the most part, in person is encouraged, particularly among the faculty, but there will be Zoom options. But again, something different about being in person, meeting with them is different. All right, so in closing, I'm probably way beyond time. Don't dare look at Jenny. We are a very strong school, widely respected with a 79-year history. But we don't rest on our achievements. We're constantly innovating. With one constant, we know that health is a human right, and that is a grounding, foundational aspect of our work. I want to thank you all again for your continued dedication to our school and what you do every day to create a joyful and meaningful place for me, for all of us, and for our students. So thank you so much. Round of applause for you all. So now the division heads are going to come up and talk about things that are going on and planned within their own divisions. I would want to start with Professor Joe Koopmeiners. Joe, are you here? There he is. All right, come on up.
So many incredible accomplishments from our faculty, staff, and students. Obviously, I only have a few slides, so I'm just going to pick a couple of the highlights, but just recognize that the entire division, I think, really did have an amazing year. Okay, so a couple of things that I'd like to highlight. First of all, one big thing that happened in the last year is we onboarded 7 new faculty. Tim obviously showed the list earlier, but this represents a 25% increase in the size of our faculty in a single year. So it's been a great group. They're all sort of integrating themselves into the division, building relationships across campus. So I'm thrilled to have everybody here. We also continued our world-class research, particularly in the area of clinical trials. As most of you know, for the last 3 years, the Division of Biostatistics has been running numerous clinical trials in the area of COVID-19. Most notably was the Active3 TICO platform trial that was led by Jim Neaton and his group at the CCBR. In the last year, TICO has kind of ended, and they've launched a new trial, Strive, which is sort of the next generation of TICO. One of the things that's exciting about this is it's this very flexible platform that's going to allow them to sort of be nimble and sort of adjust to different changes in the pandemic. And more importantly, one of the goals we're trying to accomplish as a division is potentially position ourselves as a place that would be sort of the obvious place for running clinical trials and sort of for thinking about pandemic preparedness in the future. Another primary goal of ours in the last year was thinking about how we can expand the scope of our research. So the Division of Biostatistics has been known as a clinical trials powerhouse for the last 50 years, but the landscape of statistics and data science is changing, so you're going to see a little bit more on that later. So some of that has been thinking about how we expand the scope of our research. In the last year, we've had two major initiatives launched. One is the Genomics Data Commons, that's led by Shaoli Basu. This is an exciting initiative with the goal of sort of integrating and synthesizing a lot of the genetics data on campus and sort of becoming a hub for that kind of research on campus. And the second is the Innovative Methods in Data Science within the Center for Learning Health Systems, which is co-led by Julian Wolfson. Again, this is another opportunity where we can sort of expand our data science footprint. The other big development in the last year was the enrollment of our first MPH in Public Health Data Science cohort. One of the things that's changed a lot is sort of the breakdown of our students, right? There's now been this big growth of people that want data science education that may not necessarily come from the traditional backgrounds of math and computer science. And it's also quite clear over the last few years that public health needs people that have these data skills. So we've created this new program that we hope will help us sort of train the sort of modern public health workforce. We're excited to see that get started. So that's been great. All right, next slide. Thinking about key initiatives moving forward. So we've already mentioned data science a couple times, and it turns out I'll mention it one more time after this slide. But this is really one of the key priorities for our division. Right now is a crucial time for data science, certainly on this campus, but also within the division and sort of within the entire field of public health. Some of the things that we're looking to do over the next year is thinking about how we can integrate with the newly launched university-wide data science initiative. Several of our faculty are going to be playing roles in that initiative, and just thinking a little bit about where we fit within the sort of data science ecosystem on this campus is going to be a key goal for our division. As I said, we're going to be expanding the footprint in key data science research areas. We're already starting to do that. We're sort of thinking about how we can do that a bit more. And then related to this, thinking about how we can modernize our curriculum. If you were to go back and look at a biostatistics curriculum from 20 years ago, it would have been much more mathematical, right? You would have seen a lot more statistical theory and proofs. There's been a big increase in the computational nature of our field. And one of the things we're thinking about is what does that mean for our graduate programs? We've done a lot of that work for the obviously we've created the MPH program. We've done some of that work for the MS, and we're doing that work for the PhD program right now. We'd also like to think a little bit about how we can continue and make our outreach activities sustainable. Many of you guys have heard about some of the work that our Outreach and Engagement Committee has done, led by Marta Shore. We've developed these relationships with St. Paul Public Schools and the Coon Rapids School District. That's been a lot of fun because while Marta's provided leadership, a lot of it has been student-driven. We had this amazing group of PhD students a couple years ago that were very excited and motivated by this area, but they're now graduating. So we need to start thinking a little bit about now how do we've got this great start, so how do we make that sustainable moving forward? And finally, and this is what's been dominating the division for about the last week or so, probably the last couple of weeks, is starting in June, the entire division is going to be co-located at the University of Office Plaza. So for the last 35 years, the division has been in two locations, with half of us in Mayo, half of us at 2221 University. The division will all be under roof starting at some point next week. It was supposed to be done today, but based on the number of people that said they still have desks in their offices at Mayo, it's going to be a few more days. One thing that's exciting about this is not only are we moving into one space, we bought a ping pong table for the division, so we're very excited about that. As you can imagine, we will be challenging the other divisions into some kind of competition. This is why Diane is actually stepping down. So this is going to be exciting for us, so we're going to have some fun with that one. All right, one more slide. I cheated and I asked for a third slide. And part of this is, as I said, I've mentioned data science a number of times, but the division is actually going to be changing our name at some point in the fall. Instead of the Division of Biostatistics, we're now going to be the Division of Biostatistics and Health Data Science. And we're doing this for a couple of reasons. First of all, we want to capture the full scope of the work that we do within the division. As I said, we're often known as a clinical trial shop, but we're doing a lot of exciting work in genomics, biomedical imaging, EHR, computational statistics, all sorts of sort of core data science areas, and we want our name to reflect that. It's also going to align with our research and educational priorities, which I've already outlined before. And finally, it aligns with current trends in our field and in the health sciences, right? Data science is sort of one of the hot areas right now. We want to make sure that everything we do is sort of aligned with that. So that's going to be exciting. We're looking forward to when that happens. So we're going to be moving into one group and changing our names all at the same time. So exciting year for the division. All right, I'll now introduce Bruce Alexander, Head of Environmental Health Sciences.
Thanks, Joe. This is always like the best and the worst part of being a division head because you get to brag about your faculty and staff and students, but you never have enough slides or time to do it. So in my 2 slides, Joe, I was able to cram a lot of information in. I just wanted to look back a little bit about what we did over the last year. And one thing we were doing on a division-wide area is focusing on some DEI activities. And one of the, I think, incredibly successful programs we had, which was organized by Linda Frizzell and Dana Carroll, was our Forum on American Indian Health Equity, our Red Dress Day Forum, which was done to bring attention to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous and American Indian women. And that was an incredibly well attended event by about 40 to 50 people, and we had a couple of in-person event, and it was quite exciting. We intend to continue this in future years. We also wanted to look in the area about, okay, we know that there are issues, we need to address certain issues with our students, and so we created a process to have some student focus groups to engage them and say, okay, what is it that we need to know about your experience so we can do a better job of making this an inclusive and welcoming place for you to work. We also have been focusing a lot on public health practice. We hired, as you saw, Melanie Firestone, and with this explicit idea that we really want to emphasize our role and our history in public health practice. And we're continuing on a curriculum review. I can't recognize everybody that deserves it. You saw a couple of them early in the program with John Oliver and Claudia Munoz-Zanzi, but we had a couple of faculty and staff I want to point out. One is Betsy Wattenberg. Is Betsy here today? I didn't see her. Betsy, was appointed to be the Richard G. Bond Professorship in Environmental Health, and Richard Bond was the founding director of the program in Environmental Health and Safety at the University of Minnesota, and he left a legacy of a dedication to improving the health and environment and education in environmental health, and there's nobody better to fill this than Betsy Wattenberg. Laura Babcock, who's sitting right over here, she has been the director of the MNTAP program, Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, for the last 12 years, one of the most impactful programs we have here at the University of Minnesota School of Public Health, making big differences to businesses and communities throughout the state in reducing pollution and saving energy and saving water. And we're going to miss Laura a lot. She's done a fantastic job with that program. And also Beth Baker, who's been was brought on as a director of occupational medicine, and she's been affiliated with our program for a couple of decades, but she was given a Central States Occupational Environmental Medicine Association Award for exemplary service in that area. Oh, and I skipped over Craig Hedberg. He was given a local public health hero award. That's the one I could fit onto the slide. There are several other things he got this year, but just able to put that one up. And I did want to draw attention to our students. This is a list of some of the students who were recognized from outside the university, not the scholarships and things we do inside the university, for their work and their research and contribution to the field. So good on them. Next slide, please. Okay, looking forward, we still are continuing to have a couple of division initiatives. We're going to be focusing on our student recruitment. We have a couple of programs we feel are very under-enrolled that could really need to have, we could really bolster our enrollment, and we're going to be focusing on that a lot this coming year. Continue our DEI activities very deliberately to have action in that space along to meet our SPAR goals. And the other area, along with our public health practice emphasis, is we're working to build more of an academic health department relationship, starting with Minnesota Department of Health. And I know that's a school-wide effort, but we have some specific areas we're working on within our division to figure out how that works in the most effective way. We'll be more focused on climate and health and environmental justice. We are in the process of also expanding our faculty. We have an offer out for someone to work on climate, environment, and health in American Indian communities. We're going to be recruiting, we have a search on for in the area of injury and violence prevention and control, and the food, water, and climate nexus, and environmental epidemiology and cancer and implementation sciences are some of the areas we're going to be trying to bolster our capacity in. And I just realized one thing I did leave off of this slide, and I kept hoping that I'd be able to retract this if I put it on, but we're really going to miss having Marizan Ramirez as on our faculty. She's been a fantastic contributor to our division as well as the schools. So a round of applause for Marizan. And next up, I believe, is Lisa Harnack. So welcome to the club, Lisa.
Well, hello, and as interim, I have 2 slides, and I'm going to be 4 minutes, as asked to be. And I also received my first request from some division members for a ping pong table, so. So just to start with a few of the major accomplishments from the past year I want to highlight. One is our work with diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and anti-racism. We've made some really nice progress in this area. We've had 2 cohorts of students and faculty and staff move through an equity leadership training program provided by Paul Robinson. And it's really going to help us have more people in division who are agents of change and help us all move forward in the division and beyond. Our DEI committee's also done one-on-one interviews with faculty, staff, and students to gain insights on how we can move things further forward. And they worked on creating more equitable hiring practices for TEAs and RAs. Another highlight is the work we've been doing to bolster support of the approximately 20 postdoctoral fellows in the division. One of those efforts was to support them in getting NIH K99 awards. And we had 7 postdocs apply, and 6 have received awards. So that's a really exciting progress in supporting our postdocs. And finally, we've been working to really support the success of assistant professors. It's a new age with remote working, and that sort of thing, and how can we make sure that they are set up for success? And so a detailed, prolonged orientation program has been set up where they're going to get the information they need as they need it in learning how to be an assistant professor. And we've also bolstered mentorship with senior faculty, and they meet monthly to help support each other. So that's just a few things of what we've done over the past year. Moving to the next slide of some things we're looking forward to in the coming year. One thing is we are in a time of leadership transition. I'm going to be stepping into being an interim division head in July. I'm taking over from Dr. Diane Newmark-Steiner. Dr. Ellen Demuth is going to be stepping into serving as division training committee chair, taking over from Dr. Rhonda Jones-Webb. And then we also have a change with our director of student services and academic affairs. We have a new person coming in, Maya Broughton, who's taking over from Evan Witt. So we've really had, Diane, Rhonda, and Evan have made important big contributions in moving us forward. And now we're passing the baton on, and we'll have some new, fresh energy and some new ideas coming along as well, so that's exciting. We also plan to continue working on our DEI initiatives. We really want to move more towards action, acting every day and integrating into our policies and procedures DEI. And finally, we're going to work to improve student enrollment and student retention, the student experience, in alignment with School of Public Health efforts around this. So maybe I was 3 minutes, I don't know. I think I did pretty well as an interim division head my first time here. And I'm pleased to welcome the next Dr. Jean Abrahams from Health Policy and Management to come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. The faculty, staff, and students of HPM have accomplished so much this past year. And if we could go to the next slide, please. One of those accomplishments, maybe not the most exciting, but critically important, is that we updated our mission statement through a division-wide collaborative process. And you can see here that our role as the Division of Health Policy and Management is to improve the health of all populations by creating and sharing research evidence, developing professionals, and collaborating with our local, state, and national partners. So we've brought this to bear this year through a number of actions and activities. For our faculty, staff, and students, we published over 250 peer-reviewed publications, many in top health services research, policy, and clinical journals. Our faculty and staff have also been very active in engaging with policymakers through testimony and briefings at the state legislature, with congressional staffs in Washington, D.C., and executive agencies such as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The topics are wide-ranging, including things like health equity and long-term care, price transparency, hospital cybersecurity, and public health and healthcare workforce shortages. We also recruited 2 new tenure stream faculty. On the education front, this year we had more than 325 active students across our 4 degree programs. And in the most recent U.S. News & World Report rankings, our MHA program retained its #2 national ranking, and that's worthy of applause. And HPM earned a #9 specialty ranking among departments of policy and management in public health schools. We're also very engaged with with our communities, and that includes engaging with our local, state, and national partners, including healthcare providers, payers, government agencies, and other community-based organizations that support population and public health. This takes many forms in HPM, with our research centers often leading the way. And some highlights include SHADAC's Medicaid Equity Monitoring Tool Project, CHI's Equity and Community Engagement Learning Collaborative and community-based presentations on dementia and caregiving, and CARE's partnerships with multiple community organizations to promote policies and practices to address structural racism, particularly in the context of maternal and reproductive health. Next slide, please. I also just want to briefly highlight, in addition to our faculty who were identified earlier for very major awards, we had 3 additional faculty who really deserve special recognition, and they're listed here. Dr. Carrie Henning-Smith was elected to 2 leadership positions with the National Rural Health Association. Sarah Gollist was the inaugural recipient of the David Klein Jones Distinguished Scholar Award, which is awarded to a junior or mid-career scholar for their distinguished contributions to the field of health policy and politics. And Helen Parsons was named an American Cancer Society Researchers Rising Star Award. Next slide, please. All right, and I promise I'll be quick. We have lots on our agenda, and I've listed out here 4 key initiatives. This past April, I initiated strategic planning within the division. It is involving our faculty, staff, students, and other key stakeholders to help us articulate our strategic goals, tactics, and measurements of success around research, education, and community engagement, with the expectation of having a plan ready to go by fall of 2023. We're also working hard to develop professional development opportunities by our research, education, and anti-racism practice committees to support our faculty, staff, and students. I want to work on enhancing our reputation, visibility, and partnerships with organizations, and we're going to do this through developing more intentional communication strategies, as well as outreach to our organizational partners to identify ways we can collaborate to address public health and healthcare challenges through both student educational opportunities and through research opportunities. And finally, we want to continue building community in this post-pandemic era by bringing together our colleagues within HPM and with all of you across the School of Public Health as we work together to address critical issues in our world today. Thank you. And with that, let me turn it back to Jenny Porter.